Hey, Patrick Fulop here at Effective Martial Arts HQ and Grappling SMARTY Central. And we got a very special show for you guys today. This is the first ever live stream on the EMA YouTube channel. And we have a very special guest in that honor, which is the one and only Kwonkicker, also known as Micah Brock. So I'm going to bring him right now and join us. Welcome to the show, Micah.
Thank you. It's good to be here. Good to be here.
Awesome. So for those who don't know Micah, he is an old school YouTuber. He got started on the platform no less than 14 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. So that brings us back to 2007, I believe.
Yeah, 2007 for my first channel that belonged to me, but my videos were being posted on YouTube when 2005.
So like right at the beginning of the platform. Pretty much.
Oh yeah, right at the beginning of the platform.
Awesome. And at the time of this recording, he has a whopping close to 400,000 subscribers on that channel. And he is just now making a much anticipated comeback to YouTube after a little bit of a leave of absence. So we're going to be talking about that and what's in store for Kwonkicker in the future. And again, for those who don't know much about him, the link to his channel is the first link in the description. And Micah has been a lifelong martial artist. He competed in Olympic Taekwondo, then transitioned into more high-impact kickboxing as well as Muay Thai. He went to Thailand to further his skills and to test his skills against a variety of different strikers, and was able to transfer a lot of the knowledge and the skills that he acquired in Taekwondo to his Muay Thai fights, of which there's one on his channel, where it's a very spectacular finish, so you can go check that out. And yeah, so it's really interesting to see his perspective, being in the martial arts industry for so long, being on YouTube for so long, and what he's learned, how he's noticed the industry evolve. So the theme of this stream is the evolution of striking and how the techniques, the methodologies have changed over time, and perhaps what we can expect for the future, both on YouTube, for him, on his channel, as well as in the industry as a whole, which is a subject that you know is near and dear to me. So yeah, welcome again, Micah. Very happy to have you on today.
Yeah, it's a good time. Hope we have some good chats about martial arts here.
Exactly. So first off, like I mentioned a little bit about your history as a martial artist. I think that's a nice place to start for those who don't know you. Can you walk us through a little bit, like how you got into martial arts, where you started, how was your experience, and how it evolved over time?
Well, it's kind of a funny story. I was almost the victim of a McDojo.
Right. Yeah, you talked about that on your channel. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I think I was like 15 years old. And I like everybody, I love Jackie Chan. I love Van Damme. I thought Kung Fu was like super cool because Jackie Chan was a Kung Fu guy. I didn't know much. I thought martial arts was a martial art.
Right.
Like I was like, oh, there's Kung Fu, but then there's martial arts, and that's like it's a stuff. Anyways, yeah. So I was looking for a Kung Fu school. There was nothing in my area, and I went to the local community center. And because I saw a flyer for this place called Pacific Martial Arts, and I went in there, and as soon as I poked my head in, I saw like all these students with these different colored uniforms and different colored belts, and the instructor had a mullet and a big old gut, and his like his belt was tiny. I don't quite remember.
Yeah, the belly.
I saw them like doing bow staff stuff, and I was like, I don't think this is like what I want to do. So I just turned around, walked out, was gonna go home. Probably would have never tried again for martial arts. But on my way out, I hear this guy goes, "Hey man, how you doing?" And I'm like, "Huh?" And I turn around and I see this freaking like just buff looking dude. Like seriously, when I say he looks like Van Damme, I mean my instructor who became my instructor.
Yep.
I mean, he was just dude, just jacked. And I was a kid, so I was like, oh, this guy looks like after seeing the big fat guy, I was like, dude, this guy looks like he knows what he's doing. He's like, hey, are you here to, you know, learn martial arts? And I was like, yeah, but I was here for that place. And he's like, well, no, you come in here. You come in here. And he just grabbed me basically and pulled me into his class. And then that's how I literally got started with my Taekwondo training. But there's an important distinction I think needs to be made, though, that my style of WTF Taekwondo, or old Olympic Taekwondo, was the power era.
Yeah,
it was not.
Yeah,
it was not the new like lead leg, use your leg as a post, you know, tip tap, electronic Hogu stuff. It was completely different back then. So, but yeah, that's how I got started, and then I just, you know, trained and competed in old school leg boxing back then, and then from there, just after my instructor's dojo closed down in 2006 or 7, that's when I started to really focus on, you know, kickboxing sports.
Okay, that's cool. By the way, I see Jerry is in the chat right now. So what's up, Jerry? And we'll have a live Q&A in the second part of the show. So you guys, if you're watching live, go ahead and ask your questions in the comments, especially once we get to that point. And if you're watching the recording, definitely also comment below with questions, and we'll do our best, myself and possibly Micah, to get to them as well. So definitely, that's something we'll touch on, the concept of McDojo. I don't know if you saw, I was on Rokus's channel and talk about my experience, which was not entirely positive when I started martial arts way back. Also, the instructor with the belly and the mustache, in my case, no mullet though. But then, yeah, so it's cool that you went through that, and at least your experience overall was positive, I think, in your training, right?
Oh, it was awesome. I guess mine was kind of a special case. Like, I didn't learn from an American. I learned from a Maltese Taekwondo champion. So he came from Malta specifically to teach Taekwondo. But I recently came across some old pictures of their school in Malta, and it was some hardcore stuff. I think at one point, I might be getting this wrong, but from what I could gather, at one point, their instructor, I don't know if he was fired or left or quit, but the WTF sent a Korean in to like take over the school, and everybody, there were already black belts and stuff. So he came in, and the first thing he did was retest everybody. Like he didn't care what rank you were with that the previous instructor gave you, but he like retested all of them, and some of them kept their ranks, some of them went up, but then a bunch of them got demoted. So that, I mean, back in the day, that's like, imagine trying to run a school and keep students, but demoting them after they pay. Man,
that's rough. Yeah.
Yeah. But he was a brutal teacher. Like, I remember my instructor said when he was training for like his fights and like, kickboxing and stuff, his instructor would be behind him with the car. Like while he was jogging down the road, his instructor would be like smoking a cigar and driving his car like down the road, making sure he didn't slow down and stuff. Like he told me some crazy stories, but
wow.
Yeah, they did some pretty tough training. It was back in the power era. So speed, power, that was the focus.
So for those who don't know, because a lot of our viewers perhaps are not familiar with the different branches of Taekwondo, especially the history of Taekwondo. So when you refer to the power era, how is it different back then versus what we see perhaps now in the Olympics? You touched on it briefly, but I think it'd be interesting to explore.
Okay, so a lot of people have this impression that Taekwondo is, because it looks like karate, is a traditional martial art. I guess in a sense it is, but it's not this 1,000-year-old ancient thing. It was formulated in the 50s. It's basically an amalgamation of 9 different schools of martial arts in Korea, and they're called Kwan schools, KWAN. But they basically are different martial arts styles that have like karate influence.
Yeah. And
so a bunch of guys came together and decided they were going to form this new martial art, combining all of them. And one of those guys was this dude named Choi, General Choi. He had some disagreements with the other guys about how it should be done. He split off, created the ITF, International Taekwondo Federation, while all the rest of them kind of stayed together and formulated Taekwondo, then the KTA, and then the WTF and Kukiwon. But basically, there's two main styles of Taekwondo, and they both started from the same place, but splintered immediately after it was formulated. So there's the ITF, which you mainly see in like European countries and Canada and stuff. That guy, was headed by General Choi, just the one guy. And then there's the main popular Olympic sport nowadays. That is the Kukiwon-based WTF from South Korea. So those are the two main styles. But basically, when the style was formulated back in the 50s, they sort of knew they wanted to be a kicking-oriented martial art, but they weren't really quite sure how they were going to set themselves apart. So from that time up until about the 80s, I like to call that the developmental era. It's where they sort of experimented with training methods and sparring styles to kind of figure out where they wanted the art to go. And
why was that, the emphasis on kicking? So a lot of people might wonder, like, Taekwondo is known for its kicks. Where did that come from, the choice to want to focus on that so much?
I think it was just the philosophy of, legs are longer and stronger than punches. And I think that's just where they wanted to
the first thing you can reach with, right?
Right. So that was the whole premise of emphasizing kicks, is if you could train your kicks to be as fast and powerful or easy to use as your hands, then you could dominate your opponent without them ever, entering your pocket range. So that was the theory.
Yeah.
And so they used that developmental era to sort of figure out the best way to do that. And back in the day, I don't know if you're familiar with who Hwang Jang-lee is.
Can't say I am.
He was an old Hong Kong action movie Korean actor who was a Taekwondo guy, but he was from that, early era. A lot of the developmental era Taekwondo kind of resembled how he used to kick, which was strong and powerful and control, but it wasn't as speed emphasis, I guess. There was a speed emphasis. It was just rudimentary, is what I'd say.
Fast and strong.
Yeah, fast and strong, but not so much with combinations.
Okay.
It was just strong, single, powerful kicks and basic combos. It wasn't really quite advanced yet. But as they developed the style and it started to turn into the leg boxing that you that you saw in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s, they sort of settled on the rules and it became all about, let's just focus on kicks. Kicks get you the points. Kicks get you the knockouts. Kicks are what you do the damage with. If you want to get good at kicks, you got to be forced to use them. So that's essentially what the sparring style did, was force you to use your legs to solve problems in the ring against an opponent who wants to knock you out.
You can still score with your fists, correct?
You have to hit back in the early time. You had to hit hard and make your opponent wince or drop from a punch.
Which is not easy to do with a chest guard.
Exactly.
Right?
But when they first started, like in early 80s, all they had was the chest guard. There was no headgear. There was no pads, no shin guards. But of course, for safety reasons, because when people would get knocked out, during the matches, they would fall and hit their heads. On the hard floors where these events were taking place. So eventually they started to add headgear and like protective gear and stuff like that. But basically, throughout the power era, which was after they sort of finished the development era, decided what they wanted this style to be, and then they really started, okay, now how can we advance this sparring style? How can we improve it and make our kicks faster and stronger? And you get guys trying to beat each other in competition, so they would innovate. And maybe if I do my kick this way, it'll be faster and stronger. Or maybe if I counter like this. So it's, typical with competitions, people trying to one-up each other and the technology advances.
Right.
And it kept doing that throughout the 80s and 90s. It kept getting better and better and better. You'd see way more crazy, aggressive, risky combos, spectacular knockouts. But there was a problem.
And the turning and the tornadoes.
Oh,
and the
yeah, stuff you wouldn't even think is possible. Like it's hard to explain. If you look up 90s Olympic Taekwondo championship or something and just watch the fights, you'll see them do crazy stuff. And it was aggressive, like a lot of forward stances. Not so much, they use side stances, but there was a lot more like, you know, walking forward type stances for running forward quickly to catch your opponent and stuff like that.
Right.
But there was a problem during this era, is that things were points were scored by corner judges.
Okay.
So there'd be judges sitting in the corner. I think it'd either be 2 or 4, depending on the size. And as they were watching you fight, if you scored a point, they would like raise a flag or make a note. But you'd have to get both the judges to count it as a point, or you didn't get it. The problem is that sometimes there's a lot of political judging and a lot of stuff going on and people trying to sway outcomes.
It's subjective, right?
And it's subjective. So if you didn't kick hard enough, like if you just kicked even if you scored clearly on the chest guard and you didn't kick hard enough to disrupt their balance or cause them pain or just mess up their momentum, that would give the corner judges an excuse not to give you the point.
Right.
And there's a big audience watching. So basically your goal was to hit your opponent fast and hard enough to where there's no way one of those corner judges could cheat you out of that point in front of this massive audience, because there'd be like a controversy.
Yeah.
Exactly. Which happened. So as the years went by and we're moving into like the mid 2000s, people started to sort of look at fencing with their electronic readings of like, you know, hits. And they're thinking, hey, that might be good for Taekwondo because it would prevent this political judging from happening. So their intentions were good. But like a lot of things that start with good intentions, it doesn't always end up being the best. So their goal was, you know, we'll make it to where we make the chest guard read wherever it gets hit with a certain amount of pressure, and it'll score a point. That way, no judge can take away a point from a fighter who earned it. So in the mid 2000s, they started developing it, and you can actually see old videos on YouTube of them testing it, like 2005, 2006, like testing out the technology. But once it became advanced enough, they started to implement it into mainstream competition, like high level stuff. And because of that, the people who specifically trained to like have an edge to win in electronically scored competition would start winning all the gold medals. Like they changed their styles to like, okay, well, instead of, I don't really need power. All I need is just enough power to get the point to score. So I'm going to focus on keeping them from hitting my chest guard and changing my style so I can hit their chest guard really easy without having to do much.
Yes.
So what they did is because the Olympics was Taekwondo was a part of the Olympics, and every country wants that prestige of winning the gold medal, there was pressure to, well, these electronic chest guards are now the thing. So if we want to keep winning, we're going to have to change the way we train, change our styles up so that our athletes are optimized to compete in sparring that has electronic hogus. So they started to get rid of the power stuff, focus on not even speed, just focus on guards that covered their chest guard and a posting lead leg style where they'd have their lead leg, their power leg in the front, which is, it used to always be the power leg in the back. I mean, it's ambidextrous, but your default stance was power leg back.
Yeah, because you get more power in the kicks that way.
Right, and then you could charge forward. Like you get that real good momentum with that power leg in the back. So they switched it though. They started to put the power leg in the front because all you had to do was when your opponent came at you, you just tap them with a teep or a side kick to stop them. And then you just sneak a little quick lead leg kick, hook kick or round kick, tap the chest guard, and you scored a point. The reason why you didn't see that in the past is because judges would not score side kicks or push kicks. They just wouldn't. I watched at the 2002 World Championships. I think my first World Martial Arts Championship I went to that I competed in.
Mhm.
I watched a match where like a points karate guy entered the Olympic Taekwondo ranks, and all he did the entire fight was spam stepping side kicks.
Mm.
And he just kept hitting the Taekwondo guy around the ring and pushing him with those side kicks, but it just kept hitting on his guard. And every once in a while, the Taekwondo guy would sneak he'd like footwork and counter with the roundhouse or spin hook or whatnot. But if you had been scoring objectively, like, oh, his foot hit the chest guard, then that means a point. Then that guy spamming the side kicks would have won by a lot of points. But they wouldn't score those because it just turns the style into like a big spam fest of one technique. So you didn't see that. But that was no longer a thing judges could just arbitrarily deny when the electronic chest guards came out, because basically if you hit the chest guard in any way with any kick, just hard enough, it'll score. So that's why you see people using that stupid flamingo side kicky pull leg BS, and it just it turns it into a big joke. And then you got all these people, this modern generation thinking that's what Taekwondo is and always was, when just 15 years ago, it was this insane kicking specialist style.
Right.
And it's frustrating for guys like me who came up during that era, because it's like we have no home. Like all the schools these days have all changed to
It's taken away from you.
Yeah. So it's like I have nothing. Like I have my techniques I learned, but the only way to keep it alive now is just convince other people, hey, you need to implement leg boxing as part of your normal sparring training if you want to how to kick as well as you punch.
Right.
And then that's like the only way is like, hey, kickboxers, hey, Thai boxers, you want to get awesome kicks like back in the 80s, like the Taekwondo guys had, just do this sparring drill. That's all you got to do.
Yeah.
So, but that's all I can do. That's all I have left. It's frustrating.
Yeah. By the way, I saw we got Shane Faison from Fight Tips in the comments. So shout out to Shane.
Hey Shane, how you doing, man?
Do you have his email? You can send him the link maybe to join for the Q&A. Maybe later when you have a moment.
Yeah, I'd have to go over to the computer, but
yeah, no worries. But yeah, definitely, Shane, if you have any questions, we're doing live Q&A at the second half of the show, and yeah, it's interesting what you're talking about in the evolution of Taekwondo, and also the nomenclature of traditional martial art, to which it's often attributed. The art of Taekwondo is considered traditional, although it's not old. And I discussed this with Rokas in an interview that he did on our channel previously. How would you define traditional martial arts?
Oh, man, that's tough. I guess the Western definition would just be the stuff that came out first in the mainstream popularity or in the mainstream consciousness, like karate,
right,
Taekwondo, judo.
So the stuff like 70s, 80s.
Yeah, I guess as far as like, as far as the American concept of it. But I mean, there's also is it old? Has it been around for hundreds of years? Yeah, okay, that's a traditional martial art.
Yeah.
Well, but then you have Taekwondo. I mean, it came from
same thing, relatively
Aikido,
new, karate.
Yeah, new. So are those traditional? I guess the difference between traditional and modern would be that modern allows for innovation,
right,
and competition. But see, then again, that would make Taekwondo not.
Yeah, exactly. But they innovated kind of in the wrong direction, right?
right.
According to many.
But I guess that's the good thing about. Well, I guess that's the only hope that Taekwondo has, is because it keeps all its traditional stuff, like its poomsaes and one-step sparring with elbows and headbutts and all that stuff. If they decide that the art has gone in the terribly wrong direction, which it has, then they have something to go back to.
They might correct course, you think?
I would hope so. I mean, they made attempts in the past that weren't successful. Like in 2000, 2004, 2008, they tweaked some rule changes. This was before the electronic Hogu. About 2008 onward was when the electronic chest guard started to be implemented. But this was after they got accepted into the Olympics as an official sport. So you had 2000 Sydney, and then you had 2004, 2008. They tweaked some rules in between those time periods that upset some people. And it's because they were trying to adapt and make these art more exciting and stuff. But every time they did that, they kind of messed things up. They messed the formula up. They tweaked the formula, and it no longer produced the result that it was producing. Right. Because people adapt to change and get an advantage in competition.
Yeah, well, the rule set, changed.
Yeah, exactly. So, and it's just like baking a cake. You change one little ingredient just slightly, and you could have a masterpiece, delicious cake, or you could have this just disgusting pile of mush. Yeah, exactly. So
yeah, for sure.
That's pretty much what happened with Olympic Taekwondo and how it ended up as it is today.
I see. Yeah, that's something like we talked about before. That's something I'm big on as well. I personally don't think it's a good thing to be traditional, not only in the martial arts, but like in any industry or field, because you always want to be innovating, right? There can be value in traditions, but they should always be questioned, right? And so,
yeah, I'd agree. Like I was saying about the Taekwondo thing is, I think tradition is important because it shows that starting place, so you know where you've been, so you can see how the technology of your style has progressed.
Yeah.
And there's always the chance to go back for course correction. So I think tradition is important in that aspect, and I think it's important that we have those certain types of people who are only interested in just preserving the tradition.
You think? Yeah.
But not to the exclusion of innovation. So I think of them as like the librarians, those people who are the traditionalists. They're like the librarians. They hold the traditional knowledge that allow us to always, the archives. Yes. They hold that knowledge that allow us to always go back if we feel we needed to, or maybe we're plateaued and we need, maybe there's something I can do to change up let me look back at the old stuff and see if there's something in there that I'm missing. Okay. But you must have innovation. You must have the freedom to tweak what you've been taught to gain an edge in competition in order to win. And when you do that, other people will, well, now he's on top. I've got to go back and I got to figure out something new to innovate so I can be on top. And then there's this constant one-upping. And it advances the technology. It's not just with martial arts, it's with anything.
Yeah, any field, any industry, yeah, for sure.
Any technology, vehicles,
computers.
Exactly, computers. Yeah. So why tradition is important though is because if you kind of don't remember where you've come, you're not that you don't have this library of progression to pull from to see if there's something you missed that you could have improved upon. And that's really what allows people to innovate, is they're collecting from the experience from the current generation, which is supposedly built on the experience of the previous generation, but there's always a chance stuff got missed.
Right.
So which is why it's important the previous iterations remain accessible for people to study.
You don't want to repeat the errors of the past, and you want to learn from what worked well in the past. Right?
Exactly.
So that segues into the next point also, which is I heard you talk about it on your channel, the different drills you do and all that. But can you tell us, like, aside from your own martial arts training, what was your experience in coaching? Were you like, did you have like your own gym, or you were working somewhere? I know you had an office in previous videos that looked like it's inside a martial arts school. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah. I mean, I guess I started with practicing with instructing when I was in my old style Olympic Taekwondo era. But after that, I didn't really coach much until 2014, and I started coaching as the striking instructor at an MMA gym in Port Townsend with my buddy JC Fjellman.
Okay.
But yeah, so I was just coaching just kickboxing, general like K1 style kickboxing. And I did learn a lot about coaching. And
course,
as far as when it comes to coaching fighters who are rare versus the casual person who comes to the MMA gym,
who are many in general,
who are the vast majority.
Yeah.
My focus was to teach people how to fight well and how to, handle themselves, like in, the ring or against an opponent who has ill intentions. But most people want to have fun. They want to go in there and punch some bags and kick some stuff, and they don't care about technique really, as long as they can show off on front of their friends or get fit and feel good, which is fine. Hey, that's cool. But what I was doing is I was teaching everybody as if they wanted to become a great fighter. So I would spend like 15 minutes showing them footwork, teaching them the nuances of the stances, what each stance does, like a professor. Right. And you could see their eyes just start to glaze over. And it went from this big class to where it just shrunk down to only the people who wanted to actually fight.
Yeah, if it's tailored for that clientele, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So in hindsight, I was like, well, if I would have just taken like the first part of class to do all the fun stuff, people still would have shown up for the fun stuff, and then it would have left the fighters afterwards to really focus on. So I learned some lessons early on, but
makes sense.
I pretty much knew that in-person coaching really wasn't going to be something I was going to do unless it was like private lessons or,
So you did that for how long about?
I did it for maybe 3 years.
Okay.
I think. And then, I just stopped coaching and focused on my own training.
And then, online content, obviously, which can be considered coaching. I mean, you're providing value, providing instruction through the YouTube and the videos that you publish, right?
Right. And I had it was a lot more fulfilling, and I had a lot better time because I felt like I could really teach things the way I wanted to. And the people who were looking for that kind of instruction would seek it out. And in the early days of YouTube, that's just what worked. And, you make sure if you teach something, you teach it right. You teach every aspect you can think of. And hopefully it brings in the views, and it did. And that's how I built my channel early on, was just through those long, detailed tutorials. Yeah. And then, YouTube started to change in the later years, but that's a whole different story in itself.
Yeah, so we might touch on that definitely. But I heard you talk about also a few times on your channel with different discussions with other YouTube martial artists, which were very interesting, by the way. Once you're done with this, you should go check out Micah's channel and hear other chats that he's had in the past. It's very interesting stuff. When you say you've talked about like the value of self-defense and the different martial arts, the value of each martial arts. I heard you talk about Shane regarding that with multiple opponents, with Icy Mike as well, and others. So, and you mentioned the importance also like of, for someone like the casual practitioner who wants to learn self-defense and who wants to better themselves in general, fitness and whatnot, the importance of cross-training. So I guess you did that as well as a coach in the MMA gym. You did study a little bit of grappling, wrestling, other aspects of the martial arts?
Yeah, I trained formally BJJ for about 6 months, and I'm a white belt with 1 black tag, and I'm proud of my 1 black tag.
1 stripe, nice.
1 tag. But it really changes your perspective on things. But I did find that striking and grappling, as far as the rate of improvement, is on the opposite ends. So with grappling, you can become proficient enough to defend yourself within 6 months. But
against an untrained opponent.
Against an untrained opponent, yeah. But as you progress, your rate of improvement slows in grappling. As you're grappling against other trained grapplers, your rate of improvement slows down. So there's this real long process of, innovation, self-reflection, improvement you have to do as you climb, which is why I think it's such an amazing thing for when a person gets a black belt in grappling.
Yeah.
But when it comes to striking, if you train striking for 6 months, you may still get get the crap beat out of you by some guy on the street. Okay. Yeah. It's a very
bigger, stronger, more aggressive.
It's a very slow start. But as you start to improve, that improvement gets faster and faster and faster. So it's like the curves are sort of inverted. You're quicker to get good at BJJ, but you're slower to get great. And then you're slower to get good at striking, but you're quicker to get great. It's this weird. It's a weird kind of thing I noticed, at least from my experience. But all I noticed is I was with 6 months of BJJ. Like at that point, I'm just like, yeah, I have no worries about being taken down on the street against some guy who knows nothing. No, because you're rolling with dudes like twice your size, and like I had a competitive wrestler come in to do BJJ. He was outweighing me by like 40 pounds, and I was only training for like 3 months, and I thought he was going to destroy me. But basically all he did was, he smashed me really good, pushed me into the mat, and then just kind of held me there. And I was just like, okay, well, I'll just get my forearm on his neck and just slowly create some space. And then eventually I was able to, I don't even remember what it was called, to spin out. I got side control and then moved into mount. And then I just did the thing where you hook your legs under his knees, like you're on top like this, and then you hook your legs behind his knees are like up, and you stick your feet and hook them around. And then I just had my arms above him. Yeah, I don't remember the terminology very well because this was like years ago. It was like 5 years ago since I trained. But and I just held there, and he tried to push me off, and I just kind of let my weight go on him, and then he gave up after a few minutes and just tapped, and I was like, okay, well,
just from you being on top.
Just from me being, because he didn't know what to do, because he's used to being, wrestlers, they want to be on top, right? They're not used to being on their back.
Right.
So he was on his back, and he just couldn't figure out how to get me off because my legs were hooked in his legs. Right. And I had my hands here. So he would push me and I would just brace like this. Float. Yeah, float. I guess that's I'm still a noob, guys. I'm a total BJJ noob, but my point is a BJJ noob can do a lot of things. So it's an amazing style. So that's how I knew, okay, if this guy who competed, like, even if it's just high school wrestling he competed in, if I can survive against this, then, I'm not as worried about some guy who has no clue. And then from there, I just really got into, like, I triangle choke any chance I could. And it was fun. I started having problems with my neck and other health issues. So I ended up, kind of shying away from it because there's a lot of smashing of your head when you're rolling.
Yeah, the pressure, the neck conditioning you got to do and all that. And then also being careful of who you roll with as well. Sometimes it can be same in sparring as well. I guess you don't just spar with any guy coming off. Like it can be dangerous as well if the guy doesn't control, right? In both cases.
Yeah, that was actually, I think that was the day I stopped. Is there was a black belt, a BJJ black belt there who was also a wrestler, and I was having some issues with my neck, and he was one of the coaches too.
Right.
And I let him know, I was like, hey, I'm having some issues with my neck. I'm just going to, kind of go a little bit easier. And he's like, oh, yeah, that's fine. That's fine. First thing he does is grab my gi and freaking as hard as he could, wrench it. And I was tapping, and he did not let go.
Oh, that's just wrong, man.
Yeah, he was some insecure little weasel because everybody was friendly there towards me because I was a striking coach. I don't know. Maybe he had something against strikers, but it was just a messed up thing to do, dude. He just like wrenched it, and
that's wrong.
And it just tweaked my neck, and I didn't say anything because you just don't.
He's the coach. You don't want to just like be complaining or whatever. But
he was the guest coach or whatever. He wasn't the main coach. The main coach was a guy named Rich, who was cool. I mean, he was real. He was like, he taught you slowly like he was supposed to. But this guest that they brought in was a freaking he was a punk, man. Yeah, so it just rubbed me the wrong way, and then it messed my neck up even more than that I was always already having issues with. And then I just took time off to let it heal and didn't end up going back because I was like, I know enough. I'm a kickboxer anyway. I can defend myself on the street, so I'm just going to focus on, my striking. It's my passion. Right. I mean, I may do it again in the future if I can find some guys I can trust to train correctly, to train me correctly, but.
It's a nice segue also into something you talked about also on your channel. I believe it was some kind of a podcast, like the concept of McDojos and bad instructors, which unfortunately still exist in the martial arts. Maybe more before than now. Do you think it's a trend that's going down, or?
I mean, I think the trend is going up, but what constitutes a bad instructor is different. Back then, a bad instructor was somebody who just sucked and couldn't teach you well because they didn't know how to fight. But these days, because of the advancement of the technology of martial arts, they know how to fight, but they have terrible training methods, like lining you up against the wall and punching you in the face as hard as they can, and pushing your brain, and or you have BJJ coaches who are freaking like making you pass out and waking you up and then making you pass out again. And
that happens. I never encountered that.
Oh, there was a video that went. I don't think I talked about it, but somebody talked about it. Right. Where there was this student at a BJJ school who was rolling with like a purple belt, or I think a purple belt or a blue belt, and that instructor or that higher rank was choking out I don't remember if it was a gi choke or what, choking out the student. The student would pass out, they would wake him up, and then do it again.
Really? That's like
it was this.
That's like,
yeah, it was this. It was this
brain
big
damage from that or whatever.
Exactly, you could kill somebody. I think if you just Google it, like student strangle or coach makes student pass out multiple, something like that. BJJ. I think it was in Brazil, but I'm not positive. It was a couple years back, but yeah, that's an example of bad instructors who have no business teaching others because they're still so insecure about their own abilities that they're trying to prove themselves on these beginners. They're beginners.
Basically like inflict pain or dominate or like stroke their ego. Essentially, they're not doing it for the student, they're doing it for themselves in a hostile and incorrect way, right?
Exactly. I mean, in order to improve as a martial artist, you need to, have these hard experiences with people your level or higher.
Yeah.
But not these new students. Like you got to have your hard spars every now and then, but you don't.
They can still be done safely.
Yeah, and they can still be done safely, right? But you don't do that kind of stuff on, people way beneath your level who trust you. They trust you to take care of them as their sparring partner, to keep them safe in their training. Yeah. And to do that is not only a violation of trust, but it's straight up criminal, dude. It's like assault.
Yeah, pretty much. They even pay you for that privilege, right?
Exactly, man. It's like it's just so. When it comes to bad martial arts instructors, I think they've sort of converted to a different type of beast. So they were less harmful directly back in the day. They may have taught you something that you thought might work that you go get beat up for in the street. But as far as like direct harm these days, your bad instructors are the guys who, use these dangerous training methods and then take out their insecurities on their students, and because maybe they weren't as successful against people their own rank as they wanted to be. And, there's a bunch of reasons behind it.
Yeah, I see. So yeah, that's definitely wrong for sure. Like to abuse students is definitely a bad instructor. But do you think there's still, because back to the topic of this talk, the evolution of striking, you talked about, McDojos, do you think there's still a lot of schools who teach stuff that just doesn't work? Even and then the difference between people who know it doesn't work or versus like frauds or people who are delusional vis-a-vis their abilities and the techniques that they teach. Do you think that's still an issue in the martial arts industry, more or less than before?
I think it's probably the same or slightly less. It definitely exists as far as like the dim mock death touch dorks. And
that's still a thing, right?
I mean, if you, I'm not sure if you follow this channel, but it's a channel called McDojo Life.
For sure. Yeah. McDojo Life.
Yeah. They're
crazy.
Yeah.
So shout out to Rob if you're watching.
Rob, for sure. Rob has a great YouTube channel and he really breaks this stuff down, but he's reporting on this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's still happening. And sometimes I think more I've seen in China, it's more of the case where they believe it. They delude themselves into believing they have chi powers. But in the West, it's just straight up fraud. You have these guys with like magician backgrounds who are doing these like stage tricks and passing them off as, you know, chi, setting stuff on fire with my chi, or melting a bottle with my chi power. And then what Rob does, parlor tricks, exactly. He breaks these down, and then he basically copies what they did in his own video, and you see him, you're like, Rob's a wizard, and he's like, no, man, it's just trickery.
Magic.
And but it's definitely a thing, and I'm not sure so much in person, but these guys are definitely, because they have access to Instagram and YouTube, they're spreading their nonsense in the online world more so, and it helps insulate them from people coming in and be like, I'm going to beat you up because I think you're fake. You know, if they don't have like a centralized location, it's more like a cult type organization where it's hard to pinpoint where they are, but there's sort of a network spread out, like with these dim mock dudes and other weird yoga hippie dim mock amalgamation things that are going on.
Stuff.
Yeah, it's just like it's weird. There's definitely still around. But as far as like normal McDojos from back in the days, whereas, you know, people teaching like watered down versions of traditional martial arts, which are already rudimentary to begin with, those exist everywhere still. I still drive around and I see like Joe Bob's Karate, or, you know, Steve's American Taekwondo, and you go in there and they're wearing like crossover gis and like they have like kung fu swords on the wall, and I'm like, wait, that's Chinese. What's going on here?
People are mixing a bunch of stuff together.
Right. So you still see a lot of that around the U.S. So there's definitely, they're struggling. They're hanging on. They don't want to go. They're trying to adapt any way they can, but hopefully just, you know, from supply and demand, the demand's going elsewhere, that they'll start to phase out. And
hopefully the public becomes more educated thanks to efforts like McDojo Life and others. So that we have a comment says the internet helped in that regard, like that knowledge getting spread, and we can call them out, and people are more educated. We have the UFC, people see what actually works in fights. But at the same time, maybe like they occupy certain like dark niches of the internet and find like people to prey on that way. So it could be a tool both ways, technology in that sense, right?
Exactly, which is why, I mean, it may have decreased as far as the physical space goes, but then it's made up for that loss of physical space to the digital space as far as their audience potential for you know, the death touch dim mock BS. And but
so that's obviously, like, as martial arts instructors, content creators, we're trying to spread like real knowledge as much as possible on martial arts, and to help viewers, students, martial artists basically improve their skills, right, and learn and progress. So maybe just to segue into the next part, to get more on the positive side, what do you think for somebody starting? Because a lot of our viewers, I know, maybe don't have much experience in the martial arts. Some do, but some not so much. What would you say for a student in the martial arts? Like, what's important in order to progress? What should they be looking for? What should they do if they want to improve optimally?
Okay, so for a new student, this won't necessarily, what I'm about to say won't necessarily apply to people who are very experienced in martial arts, but for a new student, a structured martial art where you can go in for regular training is going to be very important to your progress as a martial artist. So in that sense, martial arts styles are very important for beginners. They need that routine. They need that routine time to build their body up, so they get that self-control, that body awareness, you know, so they can control their techniques and learn about power
as well, right?
Fitness, right? Just build that martial artist body. But as far as, I'm sure a lot of people are like, well, what martial art do I choose? How do I know I don't want to waste my time with certain styles. I like to break it down like this. You're going to need, eventually in your career as a martial artist, you're going to need a striking style. You're going to need a style that helps you learn clinch, which is a different aspect of fighting. And then you're going to need a style that teaches you how to fight on the ground, which is the third aspect of fighting. Now, when it comes to striking, there's no such thing as a style that covers everything that I can recommend is something that you can just take and you'll never have to worry about another striking art. What I do is what I like to do is break it down like this. In striking, you have what I like to call base styles, and then you have specialist styles or specializations.
Okay.
Your base style will teach you the fundamentals you need to survive standing up. They'll teach you defense against punches, knees, kicks, elbows, pretty much anything you can think of. A base style would be something like Muay Thai. Yeah. They teach you just strong, basic fundamentals. Their footwork isn't going to make you mobile. It's not going to help you against advanced fighters under certain rule sets. But it'll give you the skills you need to be able to, maintain your balance, return to stance quickly, to move towards your opponent in a safe way. It gives you well-rounded base skills, but there's nothing really specialized about it any one way, except for maybe the knees. Right. I'm not really counting clinch because Muay Thai clinch is unrealistic in the sense that you can't do muscle over judo throws. You can't do double legs. You can't do single legs. You
can't basically touch the lower body with your hands, right?
Right. Unless it's from a kick. Okay. I can't take my leg and wrap it around the back of your knee when we're standing in a clinch. I can't do that. So it is unrealistic. You can't headbutt, which changes the entire clinch game. As we've seen when you watch Letway fights versus Muay Thai. And you watch Muay Thai guys go into Letway fights, not expecting headbutts, and their entire game is thrown off. But back to my point was that there's going to be different styles or combat sports that are your base art, which is what you want to choose. Like K1 style kickboxing would be another base art. Your specialization styles are styles that allow you to add to that base and excel in any one particular specialization to give you an edge over other strikers who only have a base. Right. For example, if you've been training K1 kickboxing and you decide, well, okay, I'm not doing too well against these other strikers in my field. I want something to give me an edge. So what you do is you'll look for a specialization martial art like boxing. Boxing is a specialization martial art. It's only punching, right? And you only get 4 punches too. Yeah. So basically, because it's so limited, it makes you really good at those 4 techniques because you're learning how to solve problems with your punches in high pressure situations. If you do that consistently, then it's like you move on to another level as far as understanding punches in the striking universe. Another example of a specialization style, Olympic Taekwondo, at least back when I was
Power era Taekwondo.
Power era Taekwondo. So like boxing, they only use their hands, so it made them really good at it. Leg boxing or old school Olympic Taekwondo, you were forced to only use your kicks. Yes, it's ridiculous. It's like, if you think about it, just using kicks in a fight, okay, that's ridiculous for self-defense. But if you look at it like this, it's a specialization. It teaches you how to use your legs like they were your hands, how to solve problems in high pressure situations with your legs against an opponent who wants to make you unconscious. So and not only that, it teaches you how to chase down your opponent who's trying to run away, how to trick them into attacking you so you can attack them without them running away. It's a specialization style that will make your kicks incredible. So when you take one of these specialization arts and you mix it with your base style, which they're very meshable, just on principle, they merge with other styles very easy, boxing and Taekwondo.
Well, it's the same situation, right? Stand-up striking.
Exactly. And you can learn literally every Taekwondo kick from every stance. Taekwondo already has like a walking stance or a neutral stance, which looks like the basic Muay Thai stance. So, you already do those kicks anyway from that position. So it's seamless. Boxing's almost seamless, but with a little bit of training, it's easy to merge in there. But my point is that when you take a guy who has a strong base, but also has a specialization or two, he has a massive, massive advantage over other strikers who just have a base. So when you're looking to become a striker, you want a base art and a specialization.
Mm.
The order you choose doesn't really matter as long as you finish your specialization style to like black belt level.
Mm.
For boxing, you need like 4 to 6 years of boxing. For leg boxing, it'd be like 4 to 7 years maybe. And then when after that, you can start kickboxing, and then it's going to be a tough transition at first because you got to get used to getting punched in the face and all that stuff. But you can also start with your base and then grab your specialization, but then you're going to have issues where you're trying to like leg box and you end up punching people in the face and elbowing them in the face. So there's different challenges you have to overcome. But in the end, if you want to be an excellent striker, you need a base and a specialization. If you just want to have good enough striking, just a base style is fine.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to, ground stuff, BJJ alone, if you're really, 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 really good at it, yeah, but you do need some wrestling. You need to know, you need to understand how to dominate from the top. You need takedown skills. You also need a knowledge of the clinch, like through judo, how to take people down, how to prevent getting taken down. So there's these other specializations with grappling that you need to consider as well when you're trying to make yourself a complete fighter for like self-defense or MMA. Man, I've gone on like a long rant. I always do that. Like,
no, but it all makes sense. It makes perfect sense. Like you want to know the basics first, and then make sure that base is strong, so you have an understanding of like positioning, how to move, how to position, what are the things you need to do with your body, basic things. What are the threats that are coming at you, and then when you want to go further, then you really kind of see it almost as like a drill, right? So for you forgo your hands and then focus on the feet only, and then vice versa with the hands. Or if no strikes, just grappling, just wrestling. So going through those different drills and then putting it all together, if your goal is to become a complete martial artist, right?
Yes, but a major thing is you have to let go. If you spent 6 years in your base style fighting professional Muay Thai or whatever, and then you move over to like boxing or like leg boxing, you have to let go of your pride. Like you're going to go in there and get beat up under these rules that make you mad and go, I wish I could elbow. I wish I could knee. Like, what? This is stupid. Why can't it? You have to let go of your pride, accept you're going to get beat up a little bit.
Well, if you're always using your strengths, you don't get to develop the other aspects of your game, right?
Exactly. So you have to just be open-minded and be like, okay, I'm going to really focus on learning this new skill set. So I need to do things the way they do them. Under the conditions they set, and then that is going to create the recipe for me to become a specialized striker. But you got to have that patience and dedication, and you have to let go of your pride. Even if you were a champion in something else, you gotta merge in, fit in, do what you got to do, and then you can I've learned what I need to learn here in these specializations. I'm going to take them back to my base style. I'm going to add them into my training for that base style. And then I'm going to turn myself into the ultimate striker I can be.
Makes sense. And then also, depending on the town you live in, the community, finding like a good place to train. Obviously, you need training partners, right? And I think that's a big concern for people that come to us to train. Our students and people in general as well, is safety in training, right? So how do you think it's important for a school or a training methodology, or people just getting together practicing to apply safety in training, both striking, which is your specialty, but also in the other aspects of martial arts?
Well, when you're brand new to martial arts, that's why I sort of stressed it's so important for people who begin to who are just beginning to join a structured martial arts style. Not only will it give you access to partners, but it'll be in a controlled environment to where you can stay safe in your training. Like in your sparring, in your pressure situations, you have, people there to make sure everything stays, at least ideally. That's how it's supposed to be, right?
Best case scenario,
Best case scenario.
Unless the instructor is the one beating you up, then
right.
you have bigger problems.
Exactly. But as you become more advanced, that is not as necessary because you've grown your network. You call your buddy up, as a experienced fighter. You say, hey, do some rounds with me. I need to, you know, shake some rust off. So you have more freedom in your training as far as safety is concerned, because as you become more advanced, like I said, you network, you gain people you trust, you have more skills to defend yourself, even if your opponent gets a little hot.
But that's a big hurdle for people starting. Like some people don't even get into martial arts because they're afraid of getting hurt. So do you have any advice for people in that situation? Like,
yes. Okay. So if you are lucky and you do happen to have martial arts schools in your area, before you participate, almost every martial arts school that's not a McDojo will allow you to just sit in and watch.
Yeah.
So you can go in, you can sit in and watch, you know, other students, watch them spar, see what the vibe is like. If it looks like somebody's getting beat on, or if it looks like the more advanced guys are sort of, you know, helping out the less advanced guys, and just you know, be observant. And then after class, feel free to go walk up to the students and ask them about it. You know, if you have concerns, like, so how's the sparring? Or like, is it safe? Like, I want to learn this stuff, but I don't want to get my face smashed in. Just because I don't want to end up meeting the grinder. And, you know, maybe they'll be honest with you and let you know. But the fallback would be, you know, just observing it. Maybe a couple days you go and you watch. But don't just grab the first martial arts school you see. If you have options, look around, do those visitations, and then make a decision based on that. But you definitely don't want to join a school where they're just smashing each other like crazy. But make sure you know the context. They're not like training for a fight, and it's, you know, two like pros who are, you think they're smashing each other, but they really are just doing, you know, some solid sparring that's controlled or whatever to an extent. But I can see how it's definitely tough, but just avoid schools where they look like they're doing excessively hard sparring for like the lower levels.
We got a comment. My mic, you hearing me fine? The mic is good?
Yeah, it's strong in my.
Okay, cool. So yeah, we're about to open up for a Q&A soon enough. I'd like to finish with basically you're back on YouTube. That's awesome. After quite a leave of absence, it was like a year or more.
It was like 2 years, 2+ years
already. Okay, cool. Yeah. We got Jerry backstage joining us, so he's going to be first in line for the questions. By the way, I had the opportunity to be on Jerry's 5 Commentary Chats channel with you recently. That's how we met, and we got the suggestions for this. So I'm going to bring Jerry on in a moment. But yeah, so you're back. What's next for Kwonkicker? What can viewers expect from your channel? What's coming up?
Well, in the past, I've actually never done full-time YouTube. Like, I've never dedicated myself to YouTube full-time. It was always like a part-time gig. Like, I didn't want to be a YouTuber. I just posted stuff, and then the channel just, you know, did its thing. And then I was like, well, I guess it's, you know, it's given an okay living. At least back then it was. So I was like, oh, I guess I'll just keep doing this YouTube thing. So I would, you know, part-time post videos, but with this time, I really decided to dedicate full time to YouTube for the first time ever.
Full-time. This is all you're doing?
100% full-time job, 9 to 5, except it's more like 9 to 9 because it's never, you know, editing all day and, you know.
Which is what I love about live streams. No editing.
Yeah. No editing. It's just done.
Man, I got no time for that. It's crazy.
Yeah. So basically, my new schedule is going to be Thursdays at 10 a.m. Central and Sundays at 10 a.m. Central, or when I'm uploading to YouTube.
Okay.
Thursdays are like in the gym, dojang, technique, stuff like that. Sundays are going to be
dedicated training and filming space where you live, I guess. It's.
Oh yeah, I've got actually, when I was looking around for a new place, I was trying to make sure I had a big 2-car garage, and I converted it into a big dojang in there. It's nice. Bigger than the one I grew up training in. It's just a garage, man.
Mats, soundproofing, lighting, all that.
It's going to be like, I got the lighting. I'm having sound issues right now, so there will be about three more videos with some echo problems, but I'm working those out right now, getting that taken care of. But yeah, Thursdays will be when I'm out there in the gym, and then Sundays will be me like in this room right here, just doing like martial arts philosophy type discussions, or talking about McDojos, or, you know, martial arts styles or stuff like that.
Nice.
And then I'm going to live stream once a week, probably Mondays, maybe Saturday or Sunday, depending. But yeah, that's basically my full-time focus now for this channel. And I've already got a couple collaborations lined up, like for out there in the gym. And I'm really working on one that I'm hoping it's at least for me, it's interesting. But like, I don't know if you know, but I haven't seen my instructor for like 14, 15
like your
years.
first instructor, the one from Taekwondo.
Yeah. He was he was that Taekwondo champion of Malta. He was also a European kickboxing champion.
Mm-hmm.
And he went back to his home country for a little bit, but then he came back to the US, but I just lost touch with him. So what I want to do is see if I can get a hold of him and bring him out here.
That'd be crazy.
And do some fun videos with that dude. Because if you guys think I'm good with my kicks and stuff,
is he older now though?
He's 54. But I asked him, I was like, "Hey man, you still training?" He's like, "Yeah." Okay. He's like, "Of course."
Looking forward to that.
Yeah, he should be. And he was always like, I was always that small, frail looking kid, and he was always like, into heavy lifting and stuff. And he was always making fun of me for not doing more lifting and stuff like that. But so it'll be a fun dynamic, I think. But I'm also going to try to have like Cyrus back and do something with Mike, and basically anybody who's willing to come out here in the middle of hot Oklahoma weather.
Okay.
In a garage.
Sounds good. And one last question before we open up for questions from the audience and we bring Jerry on. So you touched on this a little bit in the stream that we did on Jerry's channel, and like how YouTube has evolved, especially in the martial arts community, and become a little bit more less antagonistic, let's say, and more collaborative between YouTube martial artists and also martial artists in general. So what are your hopes for the industry in terms of the direction to come back full circle and the evolution of the martial arts industry? What are your hopes for instructors, students, schools, content creators in the martial arts field? What would you like to see in the future?
Well, basically just more of what's going on now. It's amazing how all these different martial artists, like on a daily basis, are just going on each other's live streams and chatting about martial arts, and big channels with small channels with big channel. It doesn't matter anymore. Like, and I also notice in the comments section, unlike old YouTube, these martial arts content creators will, engage with their audience now, like just regularly. And it's awesome to see. It wasn't like that back in the day. It was like an unwritten rule that you did not respond to your viewers, your fans. Really? Yeah. Like back in the day when like all the comedy YouTubers were on top, like, Lisa Nova and Shay Carl and all them, like that was the thing, is they never responded. All the big YouTubers never responded to comments. So all the other
superstar vibe or like,
and all the medium channels and smaller channels thought, oh, well, I guess there's a reason they're not. Maybe it'll hurt my growth, or my viewers won't like me as much if I'm accessible. So everybody just kind of followed suit, and nobody really responded, at least like the partners. But that started to change. And I love how like pretty much every channel you go to the comments section. In fact, if I see a channel where the content creator is not engaging, I'm just like, I probably don't want to get involved. This guy's probably, like at least one comment to somebody, just engage, show people that you're not
acknowledge, right?
Right. Even if it's just pressing the little heart button, because people know you read what they took the time to type. So, right. So that's what I like, and I hope to see more of that, and I hope to see a lot more of these live streams and people being more open and honest. Accusing myself of this, people being more open and honest about what they really think about certain styles. I've been biting my tongue for 14 years about what I think about certain styles, and again, just because I may or may not like a style doesn't mean I dislike the people who train it. But I've made a promise to myself I was going to be a lot more honest about how I really felt about certain styles, explain my reasonings why, and
I just started to do that myself as well recently. I think it's important. I mean, I think it can be done honestly and with respect. I think that's a mistake that some people do. Like, just because you have a strong opinion that you think something is incorrect, doesn't mean you need to be a dick about it. Like, you don't need to insult the people who are doing it. You could just present arguments on why that's the case and try to help those people or viewers in general understand and make their own opinion, right?
Right. And especially in context like this, where we're having an actual like serious or at least we're trying to have a serious discussion on, you know, martial arts and stuff like that. In my videos, when I'm doing gym stuff, in order to make it more entertaining for people who've already maybe know those techniques, I'm trying to be a little bit more of my goofy self, you know, add some comedy in there. So I might take a couple jabs at certain styles, but I'll take a jab at myself too, like at my own style. So that's all in good fun, and it's not meant as like an attack. But when I'm actually in a discussion like this, I definitely do want to, you know, be more honest about, you know, my thoughts on certain styles, and then explain with, you know, reason why I may feel that way about certain things. But, you know, like you said, in a respectful manner.
Makes sense. So that's the online world. And lastly, like in terms of the martial arts in general and different gyms and styles and schools, what would you like to see coming up in years to come?
As far as like new martial arts, or
no, I mean like the way things are done in the industry with coaches and students and just martial arts in general.
Well, I'd like to see less of the crappy instructors, more of the good ones. And it's cool to see actually more and more styles and schools bring their content online. Makes it a lot more accessible to everybody. And I was actually one of those people who at some times did not have a martial arts school around.
Right. And you can at least learn and practice following instruction that you find online. That's awesome. That really changed everything for sure.
Right. And then you get to engage with the community. It keeps you, you know, into it. It gives you feedback. It makes you feel like you're a part of something, you know, so.
Makes sense. So, yeah, very wise words. Interesting. I'm going to bring on Jerry. Hey, Jerry from Fight Commentary Breakdowns and Fight Commentary Chats. How you doing, Jerry?
What's up, guys?
What's up, Jerry?
I've been enjoying the whole chat. I've been listening the whole time. I woke up in time for the chat to begin, so I'm still like waking up. But
that's cool. Coffee?
Yeah, so great chat, guys.
Thank you so much. And by the way, viewers, you can type your comments and questions, and we'll do our best to get to them in time. So, Jerry, go ahead. I'll give you the platform.
Yeah, so I think one thing that the discussion kind of spawned one or two rabbit holes that we can go down maybe in this talk or another talk, right? One rabbit hole I thought about is if you're training at a place, and, you know, there's some things that make you feel unsafe. What do, right? Do you just walk out? Do you talk to an instructor? What is your kind of protocol? Like yesterday, for example, I was training someone, and, you know, we're thinking of like grappling kind of counters to the Muay Thai clinch. And one of the guys, you know, it's his first time learning, right? So I'm telling him, hey, just chill out, yeah, we're just practicing. And then like he does something where like his hand goes to my ear, and I hear like, I'm like, oh wow, he's like, if he keeps doing this, he's gonna give you a cauliflower ear. But like, I was just like, dude, look, be careful. And he's like, oh my God, I'm sorry, and he stopped doing that. But it's like,
this
do you
like
want to get
another
to the
student about your same level? Was he like he was just a guy training with you?
It's just it's like he's a beginner, but he's never done Muay Thai, right? So like I've done a little Muay Thai, so I was just telling him, hey, you know, just be careful. And like, so I guess, you know, a lot of people, they're beginners, right? Like tense up, you know, or like, you know, the technique involving grabbing the ear area and like, you know, pushing their head towards this side kind of thing. So he kind of grabbed too much. It was like, it's like cranking my earlobe. And I was like, yeah. And so I was just like, it's like, my question for you guys is like, what is the protocol? Like the moment you feel unsafe, you're like, hey, instructor, I feel unsafe. Or do you just talk to the guy, be like, yo, chill out? What do you guys do?
I definitely have thoughts on that, but I'll let you take that one first, Micah.
Actually, I'm going to take a quick bathroom break real quick and just fill up my water, and then I'll get right back to you guys.
At the same time, would you send a link to Shane in case he's still watching?
Yeah, I'll do it.
Cool. Thanks. Yeah, so definitely excellent question, Jerry. What to do when you feel unsafe training, and that could be in striking, could be in wrestling, could be in grappling. The guy's just going too hard, is not controlling. That's something I see a lot because the vast majority of our students that come here have no experience whatsoever in martial arts. And what I've come to understand is that it's not ill intentions most often. They're just nervous. They're just scared, basically. They're not used to that situation. They don't have the ability necessarily to control themselves, both physically and emotionally. So what I do in that case, like I like to work with people like that, students of different ages, different backgrounds. And what I do is like I basically just like, it's maybe a bit different because I'm the instructor here, right? It might be different if I'm training at another place. My approach might be different. But essentially I'll like first like, hey man, okay, relax. Okay, like match my intensity. Like I go like real relaxed. Maybe we're just like grip fighting or we're striking. And I say, okay, do this. Okay, now I'll relax. Okay, breathe, relax. Okay, a little bit slower. And I coach them on how to do that. And then for striking, we have a very cool drill that we do. I do that all the time with new students. If they have less than like 3 to 6 months experience, we start our sparring sessions with this, is that we do touch sparring against, like, I will drop my guard, I'll present my face, I'm gonna say, okay, touch me. Like, just touch, don't hit, like touch the surface and stop at the surface. And he's throwing punches to my nose and correct form, weight transfer, swinging the punches, but stopping at the surface. That's a skill that beginners do not have, because they don't even know their range. They don't, and then when they start that drill, oftentimes they don't even touch. They stop like inches away from the face because they don't, and then it takes a few seconds to kind of get to the target, and they make those micro adjustments, but they have to do it slow when they start to see like where the what's their range and how to control their power. And that's a really important drill I think everyone should do when they begin sparring. And then likewise in wrestling and grappling, it's just taking it like way slower and consciously relaxing your muscles and breathing. So that's I find the best way to do that. That being said, if I'm not the instructor in that case, maybe if I have more experience, the guy's going to listen if I'm in another gym or whatever. But if you feel the guy's like, it's not because he's nervous, but he's like trying to hurt you, or maybe he looks aggressive or pissed off, I would just then walk away and say, hey, thanks for the training, man. See you later.
Yeah, I like I learned a lot from what you just said, Patrick. I love the word match. Like that's a good phrase. Like that's a good word to use, right? Match my intensity or match my flow. Because you say, hey, go soft. You say like, hey, go slow, whatever, chill out. That's not really to the person receiving it. Someone said that to me. I'm like, okay, but like how much, right? So it's like, but if you say match, I really like that word. At least like, oh, okay, so like just like you. I really like that.
And then and I do, and sometimes it takes a few repetitions too. Like I'll be like grip fighting, let's say we're working in the clinch or whatever, and like, okay, feel the tension in my body, a little bit of push and pull, breaking the grips, getting the next grip, and like if they have like that example to follow, usually people to get it. Like they want to learn, they want to learn to control their body, they want to learn how to do the proper techniques, but they're just not used to it and they're nervous when they start.
Yeah, mostly it's not ill will, right? Like you said, that's another thing to remember. It's just like, because you're fighting mad, it's like, because sometimes you'll inevitable in martial arts, you'll eat hopefully not too much, you'll eat an arm, or sometimes you'll eat a knee, hopefully not too hard.
That happens definitely. Like a limb gets thrown out and then like they don't control it. But like I said, that's it's definitely an acquired skill to be able to control strikes and control the strength of various movements in wrestling and grappling. And I think significant time must be spent teaching beginners and helping beginners develop that skill of control in striking, taking it slow, stopping the strikes at the surface, as well as relaxing their body when they're grappling and wrestling. I don't know if you caught all that, Micah, or were you still?
I was gonna say that Micah and actually a very good video about how to kind of just touch spar and stuff like that. So yeah, there's a lot of good available resources online, and I like what you said, Patrick. It's like certain people just like in the beginning, before a spar session, just get them back into that mode of touch sparring. I really like that. That's one of my coaches that I had to leave. Like he would never do that with one of the students, right? And the students would start out just swinging at me. And so like that could have helped him a lot. Be like, hey, this first thing, just literally just practice, just getting there, just touching and stopping. Like that would have really helped that guy. And a funny epilogue was I saw him spar a student who hit him even harder than he hit me. So I was like, now you know how it feels. No, I know that's such a petty thing to do, but it made me feel good inside. I'm like, now you know how it feels when someone hits you even harder than you hit him. But like he's sparring a Kyokushin guy with the had no control too. The Kyokushin was just swinging. I was like, oh, even harder than you're swinging back at him. Anyways, but we're not trying to encourage that on this channel or on the chat, guys.
No, I don't think that's right. But I think the key takeaway is like distinguishing between ill will or just lack of experience and addressing the situation appropriately. If it's lack of experience, helping that person at their level develop that skill. And if it's ill will, then just like one warning and then you walk away. Like you don't mess with that. You only have one body. You want to train for a long time. You don't want to get hurt.
Exactly.
Would you agree, Micah?
I agree. Yeah, that's how I'd go about it as well.
You've had that experience where like the guy, like maybe you're sparring with him for the first time, or he's a student of yours, or just somebody you're training with, and then like he's just going way too hard, but not because he wants to hurt you, just because he's nervous.
Actually, in order to prevent that, what I do is I do power tests with my students before we spar. So what I'll do is I'll say, hey, put your guard up. I'm gonna give you some punches on your arms real quick. Don't move. Just hold your guard. And I'm going to show you how it feels when I'm light sparring you, because this is how it's going to feel when I'm sparring you. Okay. So I'll just do like maybe 10 punches and then he gets a feel for it. And then I go, okay, now I'm going to hold my guard up. Now I want you to throw some punches at my arms and, but I want you to do them kind of light, kind of how I was doing them. And from there, you can make adjustments. If they're going too hard, you're going to say, oh, no, it needs to be about half that power. Or if they're going too light, oh, you need to make sure you make contact.
Yes.
And then from there, we'll go, okay, so now we're going to move on to free sparring. That's if we haven't already done some other kind of drill first.
Yeah.
Like I usually like to lead them up, because if you just throw someone into free sparring, of course.
That's a recipe for disaster. And with somebody has no experience, for sure. Like they're going to panic
like I wouldn't even
their hands.
Exactly. You got to make them feel comfortable. Like I'll have them do free sparring kind of drills where I'm like, okay, one person is going to pinch when you're covered. The other person's going to jab, except you're not going to know when they're going to jab. Okay. So I want you guys at rest to like hold your guard up, use footwork, and whoever's jabbing, don't let them know when, throw your jab and have the other person block. That will start to give them confidence on, oh, I can block a punch. And the other person will go, oh, it's not so bad punching and hitting someone's guard. So there's these baby steps you have to work up to. So it's really, a lot of it's on the instructor.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. Yeah.
So yeah. So that's how I would deal with that. And then if they're still too hard in sparring, then I would just take them back to the drills and say, no, it's no good. You're not going to be able to spar until we get someone, heavier weight or something like, but you've got to get you got to get your power dialed in for light sparring when it's a brand new student, for sure. Yeah. That's what I mean.
That's cool. Yeah. That's what I was telling Jerry while you were gone, is that like, we even take it like a step further where we practice touching the surface. It could be even like on a bob or on a bag, but ideally on a person, and stopping right at the skin, right? So there's no like impact whatsoever. So you have that ability to take it 0%, know when like what's your range, and then from there you can increase. You can do a little bit of a stress testing to see if you can absorb the strikes, and you can find the appropriate amount of power to put in the striking in a sparring situation. But yeah, definitely excellent question, and that applies also to wrestling and grappling as well. We had any other question for Micah, Jerry, before we take some from the viewers? I have a few.
The other little thing, and again, this could be another conversation for another time, is my thoughts about what you guys were talking about how YouTubers are more, collaborative, how we respond more. And there's definitely kind of like there's like a two side in my mind about that, because sometimes if you spend so much, the thing is, I don't know if this is the right word, but there is a diminishing rate of returns if you start responding to all your comments, because the way the YouTube algorithm works, probably about only 20% of the people that watch your channel are subscribers, right? So you want to build relationships with those, but a lot of the people comment will never comment again. They'll never watch again. At least that was my channel for a while. So like a lot of those responses and stuff were kind of wasted on them. Like they're never watching again. I respond to them, they don't respond back. So that's something else that potentially just tossing out there for people who have a YouTube channel. So like I would say for me, set like a window. Like for me, I respond maybe the first 2 hours after an upload or something like that. That seems to keep my mind sane and prevents me from kind of being like, oh, this platform, these audiences, man, why can't you appreciate, you know? So that's just not really a question, just kind of my little addition to the conversation.
Micah, your thoughts? Because I know you have a big channel, a lot of subscribers, probably multitude of comments. How do you deal with that?
Well, Jerry does have a lot of engagement, so I think I'm probably very similar to what he gets with comments. But no, I would agree. Like, you definitely don't want to respond to every single comment. But what you can do is kind of use it as like a nod. Like if you notice the same person commenting pretty frequently, you know they're a repeat viewer. And then you can go, okay, this guy watches my videos, he's engaging. Let me give him a good response. Let me feel like, you know, that I see him like down there. I know he's engaging, and you get that interaction. And then a lot of times that'll actually, with those people, will do the opposite. It'll like turn them into like a lifelong, like I have a couple guys who have been commenting on my channel for like 9-10 years, because you have the little badge publicly. Yeah. And I see them commenting, like they won't comment on every single video, but when they can catch one, they'll comment. Like one example, I think this user named Asian Prides, he's a Taekwondo black belt. He's been around since like 2005 or 6, and he comments every once in a while. I'm like, dude, it's so cool. He's still here. He's still on the channel, like responding to my stuff. There's a couple of people like that, not just him, but so it can have the opposite effect too. But you really got to kind of be strategic about it as well. You can't just flood it.
At a certain time, I guess, like you guys both have much bigger channels than mine, and I guess like it gets overwhelming. There's just too many to get to, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, when you're uploading,
yeah.
When you're not, it's like, oh, look, I got 2 comments today. Yay.
Right. Okay, so next question from a viewer. Do you think the whole transition to foot fencing in Taekwondo, that like kind of tendency, had anything to do with the advent of black belt kids? And what do you think about kids getting their black belts early, and what's the relationship with that?
No, that had nothing to do with black belt kids. That was purely tweaking the formula of the competition by adding the piece of technology that changed the game. There were always like black belt kids, they call them pooms or booms or whatever you want to pronounce them, karate and all this stuff. Now that's separate from what I think of black belt, giving black belts to kids, but there's no way that would be the direct cause for. I mean, if anything, if you get the kids started, you know, in boxing or leg boxing early, it's just going to make them even better by the time they get to like adult age, when it becomes really competitive. That's why the Koreans did so well, is because they'd start so early, straight from the source. But as far as what I think of black belts, no, I don't think we should be giving black belts to children. And in Taekwondo, they don't really, at least in WTF Kukiwon, they don't really give black belts. They're called pooms. They're like,
it's a different system. Like it's not like an adult black belt.
Exactly. So it's just people call them that, and then it gets kind of confusing. So it's not really a black belt, but it's just something that, so the kid feels accomplished. Because, you know, with kids, teaching kids, you got to, you know, give them structure. You have to keep their mind focused on stuff. So yeah, it can look kind of McDojo-y, but no, as far as the Olympics goes and the foot fencing, I don't see how that have anything to do with it. It's almost purely the electronic Hogu, and combined with the clout chasing of the Olympics. Because Taekwondo became an official Olympic sport, everyone just, we need the prestige, not just the gyms and the students, but the countries funding them and funding these programs for these national teams and stuff. That in combination with the new rules drove people to change their style so they can have an advantage to win gold medals and glory and prestige. So that's what it would be, but not kid black belts.
Makes sense. I think we can all agree that, like, I mean, belts, I think, have value. Like, we give belts to students, kids, and adults, but it's not the same criteria based on the age groups, for sure. And you don't want to give them too easy either. It's like that's a pitfall, I think, that a lot of martial arts schools fall into, because, like, you want to reward your students, you want to keep them engaged, but then if you give them too easy, you dilute the value of the belt. It's essentially like inflation, right? You give more, the value diminishes. But you want to strike that balance where it's accessible, it's attainable, it's realistic, but also it's significant. Like, they need to actually have some skills, rather than just like attending classes or just getting it easily, right?
Right. Which is tough too when you're like a dojo owner and you're trying to keep your students.
For sure, yeah.
Like,
no,
I do not
it's a line to walk, for sure.
I mean, yes, it is a valid criticism, and I have that same criticism, but I also am trying, after hearing, I see Mike talk a little bit about his experience as a gym owner.
Yeah.
Now I'm trying to a little bit see more from the side of the gym owner who has to pay all the bills.
Yeah.
And then my own experience coaching, trying to teach people how to actually fight, and then they leave because they're not having fun. They don't want to learn about, when you are in a side stance, you can't check this way, or when you're in neutral stance, your footwork work. So I'm starting to see that, but I guess it really comes down to just finding that fine line between keeping the students engaged and making sure that their skills are on point before you promote them. Yeah, that's a skill in itself, is finding that balance. So
is it something you're looking to get into, by the way, like in-person coaching?
I might do just one-on-one, like, private lessons with someone who I know. So I already know ahead of time what their goals are.
Right.
Because then I know, well, I can really focus and give you some good value. But as far as like going in to a gym and just being a pad holder, essentially, and maybe helping a couple guys here and there, but the rest are just people who just want to punch and kick some Thai pads and say they know Muay Thai, and then go on forums and say, oh yeah, Muay Thai is no, I have no interest in that. Not so much for the time being. I mean, it would just depend on the school too, like what the owner of the school wanted from me in specific. If he said, hey, teach a class on merging Taekwondo kicks with general stand-up striking, I'd be like, yes, please. Yeah. Like,
but like that's all I'm doing. Like a seminar, right? Or something, a guest instructor type situation, maybe?
Yeah, I did a seminar with Shane, and that was a lot of fun. I was kind of awkward because I've never done one, but I learned from it.
Interest in the comments.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind doing seminars. That'd be a cool thing to do, where you just drop in, you teach what you're going to teach, and everybody's there for the same reasons. And those were fun. I would definitely consider doing those in the future for sure.
Sounds good. Next question. Any other questions, Jerry, before I move to the next one?
So, so you guys talking about the kids. Actually, I have to give a lot of thanks to the wisdom of Sensei Ando. I was talking to him yesterday, and Sensei Ando was he gave me this piece of empathy that I totally forgot about because I'm not a parent.
Was it live, by the way? Was it broadcasted or just?
No, we just talked privately. Okay. I should have recorded now that I mentioned him. But what Sensei Ando, because he taught kids for many years, right? Ando said 99% of kids don't even want to be there. So that's something like I don't think about because I started Kung Fu. I kind of liked Kung Fu, right? But most people, it's like their parents putting them into Muay Thai, their parents putting them into Taekwondo, their parents putting them into karate. So relating to what Micah said about how sometimes you just have to give a little bit of encouragement, a little bit more. That's what the Pumsa and all that, that's what it's trying to do. Now, it's always about a balance, right? Because you want to give kids the false confidence, but hearing what Ando told me about how, a lot of times the kids don't even want to be there. So you got to like extra encourage them because it's like, oh, I got to go to practice again. Oh, like most of us, we deal with that too, right? You, me, we all deal with that, but it's not like, oh, we don't see where this is going. Like we know we go to practice, we're going to benefit from it. Most kids don't even know that. Oh, what's the benefit of going to practice? Like they don't even understand that. So just a little bit of an interesting context I just learned yesterday.
Makes sense. Any thoughts on that, Micah?
Yeah, actually, now that I think about it, there were you know, when I was younger, there were a couple people who I remember not wanting to be there when I was all excited about, you know, sparring and doing all that stuff. They were just kind of like, they had that look on their face like, eh. And I remember thinking, why are you even here? But that's a good point. Like, I guess they don't have a choice. Some people, they're just put there,
Yeah.
you know, by their family or whatnot. So that is interesting. How to think about it. Yeah.
I can maybe address that because like we do this here. A good proportion of our students are kids, and a good proportion of those kids, some come because they want to be there. I'd say a significant amount, but also another part is the parents dragging them there and say you're going to do this, because oftentimes they want some of the benefits that come with martial arts training, which is better discipline. Sometimes it's better fitness. Sometimes they're dealing with bullying situations in schools. And they need to grow their confidence, and they need to learn to address these situations in a positive way, and basically stay safe, right? And then learn to interact socially. So there's a whole bunch of reasons why parents put their kids into the training. Some kids want to do it because like they think it's cool, it's fun, but the other ones, some don't necessarily want to do it. In that case, what we do is just we basically try to make it as fun as possible while making it effective as well. So like gamifying, finding drills. Like I know us, like we have fun training martial arts, right? We come up with drills or training where, you know, we try to, okay, we just use our legs and I try to touch you to the face. And like, so we come up with stuff like that. But I think kids, if you use your imagination, you can really come up with a lot of fun stuff that also translates, right? So you work on like sumo wrestling, for instance, right? You do the little box and you try to push your partner outside of the box. Right. And then we works on base, works on grip fighting. They have fun. We teach them how to interact positively with the other person. If you're bigger, maybe you give the other guy a chance, right? You let him get a point once in a while. So I think that there's ways to do that, to keep it fun, keep it engaging. But it's definitely it's a speciality. There's a lot of knowledge that goes into it, and it's not an easy thing, but it's definitely doable for sure. Next question.
I'm gonna continue
Yeah,
listening on the phone. I'm gonna get off the live stream, but I'm gonna continue listening on my phone.
No problem. Thanks for hopping in, Jerry. That was awesome.
Yep.
Thank you, man. See you guys soon.
Yep. See you, Jerry.
So next question that we got in the comments: do you think there are any power era Taekwondo gyms left? And where should someone go if they want to learn this stuff? Obviously, your channel is one, but like in terms of places to go.
If they do exist, they're isolated. They probably are like me and had some issues with WTF and Kwonkicker and kind of broke away and are just kind of teaching their own thing. But I mean, it's been so many years that for the schools to remain competitive, they have to change the style. And if they don't, their students start losing, and those students move to other gyms because they're losing. They want to get better. Like, why are we losing?
Or stuff and
right. And then those schools would, you know, just go out of business. So unless they had a lot of loyal students, or like my instructor closed down in 2007. It's I don't think there are many. There are probably some where they still teach the old style. I know there's a YouTuber called Alex Wong. She's an active Taekwondo competitor. She competes in the foot fencing stuff, but her style, you can tell she learned from somebody who taught her the old style. And you can see she's kind of kept like half of it, but she has to like adapt and mix it with some of the foot fencing stuff. So you see her use a rear leg stance using lots of rear leg power kicks and stuff. But every once in a while, she'll have to sort of adapt to that lead leg posting style. But I mean, she's like the only one I can think of right now. But as far as like any school like in the US I can think of, no. I know one of the guys who grew up training alongside my instructor's name is John Barbara. One of his co-students opened a gym up in Malta. I think it's Malta, or it might be the UK. And he's teaching there. And I saw a video on his Facebook where he's teaching the old style of sparring. And then he's teaching like Changangi Baramaki, like, which is shin checking. A lot of people don't know. In Kwonkicker, WTF, there's shin checking, blocking with the shin, not just blocking, attacking with the shin. A technique I still have not used in a fight yet, but I'm waiting to go up against a really jerk of an opponent. It's basically where, you know, instead of checking with the, like if someone throws a rear leg roundhouse kick, instead of checking with your lead leg, you're jumping into the rear leg check, cross check. So it's like, instead of bringing my rear leg to cross check, I'm jumping as I do it. It's a jump powered cross check, and you hit with the very top of your shin, and it's so you break their shin. It's
like in the Silva fight, right? With was it Whiteman?
Could have been. I'd have to check it out.
He broke his leg. You saw it like break. The shin actually broke in half.
Yeah. So like, yeah, that's the result. Is the idea is to jump your check into their kick, so there's extra force and it creates extra collision to snap their shin in half.
That's crazy.
But that's just old. Like, he was still teaching that. But to answer your question specifically, I think they're probably very rare, which is why I don't tell people go join a Olympic Taekwondo school, because they're almost certainly going to get, maybe not certainly, but probably going to get the foot fencing experience. And then people say, well, why don't you recommend ITF Taekwondo, the other traditional Taekwondo? Because it's a semi-contact sport. It always has been, always will be. But people get knocked out in ITF. Yes, by accident. It's not, you can't win with knockouts in ITF unless there's some special exception in that particular competition. But the general sparring style is semi-contact, where you're not only not allowed to knock out, but you don't have the mindset of I'm going to knock my opponent out, and you're not necessarily dealing with an opponent who wants to deprive you of consciousness. Yes, they want to beat you, but it's a different monster than being in a ring with someone who wants to literally make you unconscious. So, I mean, that's the reason I don't really recommend that. I always just say, oh, go join an MMA gym, go take kickboxing, K1 kickboxing, go take Muay Thai, maybe Kyokushin. But if you take Kyokushin, you need to supplement it with boxing. You know, as a specialist style.
Face, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So there's an idea for branding: old school Taekwondo.
Yeah.
So if somebody, so we're gonna finish up pretty soon. I have a few more questions to get to. So if you guys have any last minute questions, go ahead and post them in the comments. Somebody asks, and I think that's a nice segue. Like, we talk about injuries and all that. Non-practitioners' views on martial arts, how to help non-practitioners challenge their stigmas of martial arts. So perhaps they've had a bad experience, or they heard of bad experiences. They maybe have certain preconceptions or fears, let's say, about martial arts. How would you help these people challenge those stigmas and basically get a more positive view of the martial arts?
Well, the first thing would be to broaden your horizons, not from like reading posts on the internet or watching certain videos, but to watch as many videos as you can from both sides. For example, and if there's a little trick you can do, if you're watching a style versus style video on YouTube, let's say it's named Muay Thai versus Taekwondo, okay? And you watch it and you're like, oh, every time I type Muay Thai versus Taekwondo into YouTube, I see an example of Muay Thai crushing Taekwondo. Taekwondo must be terrible. But anytime someone posts a video of Muay Thai versus Taekwondo, it's because they're trying to show you how dominant Muay Thai is. And in the title, they'll almost always put Muay Thai first.
I think the question, I mean, it's a very interesting talking, but I think the question was more about martial arts in general, like people who don't have much experience about martial arts training. Not so much like which style is better, but like just like, is it a good thing to train in martial arts? Maybe people think,
in general, okay,
yeah, like they'll get hurt, or like it's like only meatheads, you know, like how you help people. Maybe it's a Corey Fantoma. I don't know if it's MMA. Maybe he's a coach and he's trying to help people who want to start and like basically have a better impression of martial arts and like maybe develop an interest in it if they had some preconceptions.
Okay, so from a sort of health and fitness / self-defense.
Yeah, like a layman who has no experience and has preconceptions on martial arts, how would you help them see it in a more positive light, basically?
Oh, that's tough. I mean, because it's really hard to break through someone's preconceived notions of certain things. It's really got to be their desire to be open to changing their mind about a certain thing. But I would say if you're one of those people who does have that preconceived notion about a certain style or about martial arts in general, to be open enough to venture out and visit some of these different, martial arts schools or whatnot in person and as just a spectator. The vast majority of martial arts, even if you have no intention of joining and you just show up a couple times a week to watch, they'll let you in as long as you're just keeping to yourself and you're being respectful and quiet.
Yeah.
They'll let you watch, and I guarantee you, the reality of martial arts is way different than what you have jumbled up in your imagination about it. So if you're feeling a little scared or standoffish, maybe just go sit in on a lesson or two.
Yeah, get to know the people, have a chat.
Right, or watch content like this. Just go explore on YouTube. Watch content of martial artists talking about their style, showing videos of their style, of them in the gym, or it'll give you an impression of the reality of it, and you'd have a better idea of what's actually going on. And then instead of if you work off vague information, your mind's going to sort of fill in the blanks, your imagination, and things are going to kind of seem worse than they are, or a waste of time, or I'll just get a firearm, and a lot of different things can happen that way. But that would be my advice: is just broaden your horizons, venture out, visit people in the real world and online, and just
Makes perfect sense. Let's do one last one, and it kind of ties into the previous. This viewer commented, going from boxing, transitioning into MMA, issues with shoulders, knees, and toes when shooting in for takedowns. So basically, and I think we could tie that into injuries in general in the martial arts. What would be your advice in terms of to stay healthy and strong as a practitioner, and ideally avoid or recover from injuries?
Okay, so I can tell you that the vast majority of injuries that I've had over my career have happened because I've tried to do something too quick before I was really ready to. When I was actually in training. When I was in training, it was because I was trying to do a technique before I was ready to do the technique. Or when I had taken a long break from training and I came back, it's because I overestimated how little my body had declined during that break.
Huge. Yeah.
And then I came in and, was trying to train as if I had always been training. And then your tendons get weaker, your muscles atrophy, your flexibility goes, your mind's still there. In your mind, your technique is perfect. But in the reality of it, your body is not ready for that level that you still think you're at. And it'll almost certainly cause injuries, major injuries. So when first starting or coming back, you really have to pace yourself. You really have to do a slow build back up to that fitness level before you start pushing the learning new techniques and trying more aggressive, something like an aggressive full power shoot in. Maybe keep it slow, keep the repetitions, easy until you've had time to, build that physical strength and conditioning you need to prevent that injury, because it does happen and it will happen if you try to rush things.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And if I might compliment as well, is that I think one area that we work on very, very strong emphasis with beginners is overall strength and conditioning, right? And this viewer has experience in boxing, but wrestling is a whole different animal. And you definitely want to make your body strong. You got to spend time on that. You got to squat. You got to do your neck conditioning. You got to an often overlooked conditioning exercise is rotator cuff exercises for the shoulders. I don't know if you do them in your program, but it's just the external rotation of the shoulder, the muscles you have in the back. And if you're always doing push-ups and punches, you'll develop some kind of an imbalance in the shoulder. It's a very common thing. It used to be in my old school, and that's something we put a lot of emphasis on in our classes. That you gotta train that muscles. Even sometimes gym bros, they wind up with rounded shoulders because they do too much bench press. You gotta do that external rotation. So look it up. Rotator cuff exercises for the shoulders. In terms of the knees, hips is a lot of mobility exercises. The knees, you gotta lift, you gotta squat. Single leg, double leg press. And then, like you said, in terms of techniques, you got to take it slow when you start, and definitely be able to do the technique solo first before you do it with a partner, right? So
Oh yeah.
For the example of a double leg takedown, you got to be able to change your level, go real low, and then be able to step on your knee, not fall on your knee, but step on your knee with control, and then be able to do that as fast as you can, ideally full speed solo, before you start applying with a partner with proper posture, good strong neck. And so that would be my advice. That's what we see often with beginners. And like you said, I think that's super important. Either beginners starting or people getting back into the training, like baby steps, go slow, man. Go slow, take it easy. Like we actually, like with beginners starting, like maybe the whole class will be doing like a set of, I don't know how many push-ups. We actually stop them on that first day because they will push, like they will try to follow the whole class, but we actually say, hey, stop, this is your first class, take it easy, you're going to be too sore tomorrow, right? And then so consistency over intensity is definitely the way to go in terms of conditioning. So I think that's important to know, and it's not very well known in general for most people, right?
Yeah, and I like how you said that, because I remember after I had my school closed down, I remember my first Muay Thai conditioning class. I went in and I was like, yeah, let's do this. And I hadn't done any of that kind of conditioning. And right. I was really pushing hard. And then I remember the next day just being so sore. I was like, ugh.
Yeah, that's not cool. That's not, you can't walk, like you can't train again for sure.
I went into training, but I couldn't do anything. And I felt so like crappy because everybody else was, I couldn't even do like one push up. I was like, it's so much pain. So that's cool that you will stop your students so they, they gradually build up.
Yeah. Because they won't do it on their own because they
no.
want to follow. You want to push. So you gotta moderate. But man, it's been an amazing talk. I'm looking forward to all that content coming soon on your channel. Any closing thoughts for our viewers before we wrap this up, Micah?
Oh, no, just thanks for having me on. And it was really fun chatting about this stuff. And even though I rant and rave all the time, but you're pretty good at keeping everything on topic. I really like that and keeping it focused. And it's been fun. It's been a fun time.
Awesome. It was awesome having you on. And again, guys, type in your comments. If you're watching after the fact, comments below. We'll definitely do our best to get to them. And looking forward to all that good stuff coming soon on the Kwonkicker YouTube channel. Again, that's the first link in the description below. And we'll see you on the next one. Micah, we stay on and chat a little bit. And that's the end of this broadcast. Have a nice one, guys. Signing off. Patrick Fulop here at Effective Martial Arts HQ in Pointe Claire, West Island of Montreal, Quebec, Canada, with
Kwonkicker.
All right. See you guys.
See you guys.